Shalom, everyone. And the topic of our study today is the month of Tamuz, Cancer, okay, Sartan in Hebrew. And this is a very special month. Every month is special, but this month is special in a certain way that we will see later on. It's a very, very challenging month. Why? It says in the Zohar on Exodus 2, chapter 2, verse 2, it says, Vatitzpeneu shlosha yarachim. And it speaks about Moses' mother, and she hid him for 3 months. Of course, it has the simple explanation that Moses was hidden for 3 months till she couldn't hide him anymore, and then she put him in the ark on the Nile. But every verse in the Torah has many, many layers. And then the Zohar, Parashat Shmot, verse 193 in Perush HaSulam, Elohem Shlosha Yarachim. What does these 3 months she hid him? Elohem Shlosha Yarachim, Shedin Kashe Shore Ba'olam. These are 3 months of harsh judgments in the world. Who are these 3 months? Tamuz, during these 3 months, okay, there's a judgment, and these are Tamuz, Av, and Tevet. Tamuz is the month of Cancer, Av is the month of Leo, Tevet is the month of Capricorn. The 3 months of very harsh judgments, which means during these 3 months, we really need to be super careful about everything we do, because there are judgments. And then the Zohar continues, She'en bahem gilui Shechina. During these months, the Shechina is hidden because of the judgments. And, okay, so the Shechina is hidden, and that means we are not protected. Of course, we are protected, but not as during other months. Everybody experiences many miracles that we are not aware of that save us from sure death many times a day. Okay, and that's what we have to be grateful about every day. However, during these 3 months, we need to be extra careful about not to fall into the pits and the temptations of all the negativities around. And let us explain what does that mean. Okay, how do we come about having such a month that is so challenging? Okay, so when we come to study anything in the world, when you have the tools of Kabbalah, you have an ability to analyze whatever looks like a physical phenomenon, a physical appearance in the time-space structure of our 5 senses, and we can see it in a different way, okay? Because we can see it from the root level, whatever we experience with our 5 senses and with the logic of the 5 senses is connected to the level of the superficial, which is a very small, minute part of the reality. These are the only some branches of the tree of life. And if you really want to know what's really going on, you have to learn the roots. Okay, so just to remind again to people who are listening the first time and learning it the first time, when we come to study Kabbalistic astrology, okay, the concept is different like many other things. And what does it mean different? We are not being affected by the stars. We are not being controlled by the stars, okay? We are not, this is exact, not the issue. However, so what is astrology? And the answer is what the Zohar says in Parashat Yitro. The world has its own rhythm. the rhythm is very, it's like a computer program, okay? It's like the same thing when you learn the weather, you know there are rhythms, there are cycles, and they're being affected from a lot of things. And whoever is studying the wisdom of weather forecasting knows it is not about guessing, it's about learning the numbers and the forces that are playing in this arena, which is called the atmosphere of planet Earth. What the Kabbalists are saying, there is a physical atmosphere and there is a magical, I won't say magical, but there is an unseen atmosphere of energies that we are living in, and it has also lots of forces operating and affecting from different directions. Okay, those forces um, are called the astrology, the wisdom of astrology. However, how can I see these forces? I cannot see these forces, not with my bare eyes, not even with any physical tool. However, the way the universe was created, says the Zohar, the same way a human being has a face, and from looking at a person's face, you can tell about what's going in their hearts and minds. Same way, when you look at the face of the heavens and you look at the stars show you about the rhythms happening right now and here now, which means the same way we know that the person does not feel sadness or happiness in his face. The face only show what's inside. That's why in Hebrew, the word panim is the same letters of panim, which means inside. Okay, so we are using the stars to understand what's happening over here. And so we are not measuring the influence of the stars, but the stars, they show like the same time right now, you're watching a screen, and what you see on the screen does not happen on the screen. It happens, could be if you, if you live far away from Jerusalem. So it happens thousands of miles away, and it also happens in the servers of your provider, okay, or wherever this is happening. So it doesn't happen on the screen, but you know it shows something that happens somewhere else. Same way, we're looking at the face of the heavens, and we can tell that's how the Creator created the world. So we are not totally ignorant, but there are deeper forces that right now we're going to learn that really are behind that screen. Okay, so there are 4 seasons in the calendar. Why 4 seasons? Because everything is based on these 4 forces that are called Yud, K, Vav, K. These are the 4 letters of the name of God, the Tetragrammaton. Tetra means 4 in Greek. Okay, so it's a name of 4 letters. These 4 letters symbolize the 4 forces, the 4 main forces that this world is composed of. Okay, and the first force is the force of the Chokhmah, Yud, which is of the spring. And the second one is the upper Hay, which is also representing the Sephirah of Bina from the Sephirot, the tree of life. Now, Sefirat Bina, what does it mean, Sefirat Bina? It's a very complex, and we are not here to study about Sefirat Bina, but to make it simple for our purposes, Sefirat Bina is mainly the energy, the force of water, chesed, okay? Sharing. Bina is the source and the beginning of the sharing of the vessel. Now, it's the sharing of the vessel. That's why in the tree of life, when you see 3 columns, you see that Bina is on the left. But basically, if you look, we know that Bina is also connected to the left hemisphere of the brain. But we know the left hemisphere of the brain affects the right side of the body, correct? So it's not So we have here a transform because the Bina on the way is the left column, but on the inner way, it is symbolizing water, sharing, and emotions. Okay? Now, therefore, the three signs of the summer, that the summer is a manifestation of the metaphysical force of Bina, the three signs of the summer, Cancer, Leo, and Virgo, as you see, all three of them have obsessive sharing. The Cancer, it's obsessive sharing and caring, and which means give you love, attention, protection, all kinds of stuff. It's a very motherly, loving, obsessive, caring. That's Cancer. Leo, that Leo in Hebrew is Av, father. That's a fatherly, obsessive, caring, which means I'm going to tell you what's going on. Only I know what should be done, and you're going to listen to me because otherwise it's going to be a disaster. So that's an obsessive sharing in a fatherly way, okay? And then you have Virgo, and Virgo also have an obsessive sharing that can be manifested on a superficial level. You know, where Virgo has a need to tell you so many details that you don't even know what are these details about when they talk to you. Okay, many Virgos, but that's on the superficial level. But in the inner level, we see a lot of Virgos in the professions of caring, like nurses, like all kinds of professions of caring for others, and they're amazing in doing that because they can see details others do not have the ability to see. So all of these 3 months have a very strong sense of sharing, very emotional. Okay, Leo, it's all a drama. Okay, Virgo is less, as we're going to see later on, because it's also central column, but it does have that also. Now, let's go back to our focal star for this, or the focal point for this lecture. This is the month of Tamuz, the sign of Cancer. Okay, so the sign of Cancer is in the summer, which is Binah, which is the energy from the four elements. It's water. And what does it mean, water? Water means sharing, drama, emotions. Okay? All three signs have that in the core base force that affects it. Okay? So, and we know Cancerians, it's all emotions. Leo, it's a drama and emotions. And Virgo, they're trying to hide it, but there's also a lot of over there. Now, Cancer is water, but it's also a water sign, also from the point of view of the more famous Western astrology. So it has double water, which means it is water by itself. It is water from the core because it's in the summer. And it's also right column that whoever knows Kabbalah, the three columns mean right, left, center. They are water, fire, and air. So right column is again water, chesed, giving and sharing, loving and kindness. So Cancer comes out to be the only sign, if you're going to look at the whole chart, not now, but later on, you're going to see the only sign that has the same element from the aspect of the season, from the aspect of its own cycle, and the aspect of its position in the season. If you're going to see, you have the same in every season. There are three signs: right, left, center. Okay, so the only one that has water, that has the same element on all three aspects, it's Cancer, which means the moment you have one element repeating itself 3 times, immediately it shows you we have a problem. It's called, we have here an extreme connection. There's no balancing angel over here. One of the biggest problems of the sign of Cancer is the lack of balance, because there are three signs of water, but neither of them is so prone to imbalance as the sign of Cancer. And that's why when we talk about the sign of Cancer, the symbol of Cancer is the crab. And whoever knows crabs, they can never walk straight. Okay, what does it mean? How does a human being walk? We have two legs, okay? A normal, healthy human being has two legs. So you move one leg and then you move another leg, but you move them in a way that they do not contradict each other, but they support each other's movement. So the result is that you're using both legs, but you're moving forwards. When you're using right and left, you basically move forwards. Now, crabs, they either move to the right or to the left. They are not capable of moving forwards. So it is extreme. So in regular astrology, it is said that the signs of Cancer, they have a tendency for being manic depressive. Okay, it's a name of a psychological phenomenon, right? A psychological disorder. What does it mean, manic depressive? Either you're manic, you're really excited about stuff, you are so excited and high, and then you're depressed, which means the mood swings are very extreme because of the lack of balancing agents, which means somebody who's born in the month of Cancer, or when we are, all of us, being affected from the sign of Cancer because it is the month of Tamuz, we really must be on the watch, because we know that usually our falls are in the moments of lack of balance, emotional balance. Okay, so that's why this month has to be taken with very extra special measurements of caring and, of course, control, and being aware not to take things so hard as they look like. Okay, that's very important to remember, so it can save us from a lot of troubles. Why? Again, because emotional imbalance is the cause of most of our downfalls, mistakes, and whatever losses and misunderstanding our tikkun, or failing to do our tikkun in the right moments in time. Okay, so that's some basics about the month of Cancer and why it is what is called Cancer. Now, so why crab is called Cancer? And we know that Cancer is also a name that a lot of people are so scared of, they're not even ready to pronounce this word. Or he got that disease. Okay? They don't even want to say the name of that disease. And we know that already in the 70s and 80s, it was known in research that most of the people, I remember this, it was said like around close to 80% of people who had terminal cancer, it was proven that they went through a very strong emotional imbalance that in the years before, that basically could be seen as the cause for the development of that disease. So, of course, we know that happy people and people that are emotionally stable it's very hard for them to develop cancer. Usually, the people who do develop cancer are people that have a problem, a trauma, and they cannot overcome, and they go into a long period of heavy depression. And that is very common with Cancerians, but not all, all people of this world are not Cancerians, but the moment we allow that aspect, remember, every human being is unique and there was no one like that person and will never be. Okay? So how can we say that 12 signs of the zodiac? The 12 signs of the zodiac, they give you 12 basic types. Every person, according to the Book of Formation, Sefer Yetzirah, is a combination of different portion or forces of these 12. And that's why when you want to know the astrological sign of a person, it's not enough to know the birth month. You need to know the rising sign and the whole structure of the houses and the stars and the planets and stuff like this in the person's chart, astrological chart. And from this chart, we realize that each one of us has all 12 signs, but the strength and the direction of each of them inside each one of us is so precisely unique. So there was no one ever that had the same chart, and there will never be. Okay, so we all have Cancer, the sign of Cancer, inside our chart, and sometimes that sign takes over and it's very dominant. And that's when we understand that, we can basically protect ourselves from falling into places that later on it's going to be very hard to get out of. Okay, so now that we explained the basic formula of understanding every zodiac sign according to the study of Kabbalah, so we understand that the sign of Cancer, which means whoever is born during this time, it's not that that person has these traits because he was born during the month of Tamuz. Because that person has a tikkun, a special tikkun, a special correction, a special chart of traits, attributes that they have to develop, a special chart of faults that they have to correct and improve. Okay, all of these are part of our soul makeup. Why are we born on a certain day in a certain moment? The certain day and certain moment just reflects the tikkun, the chart of our tikkun of our soul. Okay, so I wish I was born in another month. No, you're not supposed to be born on another month. You were born in this month and this day and that rising time and so on in this chart exactly because that is that represents your soul's correction. And if you want to understand the soul correction, look at your astrological chart and you will understand what did you come over here to correct? What are the gifts that you were given to help you in making that journey? And where are your downfalls? Where do you have to be really careful, especially careful? And what are the benefits that you have that the Creator gave you so you can do your job in the right way? So let's go right now to read from the book of the Bnei Issachar. Bnei Issachar, Rabbi Tzvi Elimelech Ovdinov, he lived in Eastern Europe in the 19th century, and he just put together almost all sources of Kabbalistic spiritual writing about each one of the zodiac signs. Okay, so and here it says about this month of Tammuz. He's starting with like usual, צירוף הוויה השולט בחודש תמוז הוא ה' ו' ה' י'. He's starting from the tetragrammaton permutation that is manifesting the spiritual force and the frequency of the month of Tammuz. Okay, and whoever didn't hear about it, in the Tikkunei Zohar is a part of the Zohar of 70 chapters that basically 71 chapters that have 70 different explanations of the Hebrew word Bereshit, which is the first word of the Torah. Okay? It's one of the most amazing works in spirituality that was ever written by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. It is a part of the Zohar. It's called Tikkunei Zohar. And in the introduction, it says that the 12 possible permutations of the Tetragrammaton, each one of them is representing the forces that are behind each one of the 12 signs of the zodiac. Now, the permutation of the Tetragrammaton of the month of Tammuz, it is Hey Vav Hey Yud, as you see in front of you, and Hey Vav Hey Yud. Whoever knows what you're looking at, it's exactly the Tetragrammaton backwards, okay? And it's coming from, and of course, in the Tikkunei Zohar, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is bringing us, for each permutation, a verse from the 24 books of the Tanakh, from Genesis till the last one, you know, the prophets, all of them. And that's from the book of Esther. The book of Esther, chapter 5, verse 13. There's a verse that Haman, you know, the terrible Haman, he says, V'chol ze eneno shoveli. Ze eneno shoveli. It doesn't worth it for me. That the last letter of each word, if you look at them, you have Hey, Vav, Hey, Yud. Chol ze eneno shoveli. Why he was saying that? He was saying that because he was feeling totally victorious over his enemies, the Jewish people. He already had the decree to kill every Jewish person in the Persian Empire on one day, not waiting, one day to have every subject of the Persian Empire, like killing every Jew in sight on one day, and he had his wish coming true. But he said all of this and all the honor and all the respect doesn't worth it as long as he sees Mordechai, the leader of the Jewish people of that time, alive. Okay, so he said the kol ze eneno shoveli. Now, he wanted to intensify the power of judgment. Therefore, he mentioned that power, so he's the symbol of judgment and negativity. So we have over here, if we know that the name of God, the Tetragrammaton, Yud Kei Vav Kei, means the energy, the flow of life, from the endless down to our level of existence, to this physical level, when these letters are aligned properly, Yud, Kei, Vav, Kei, life flows through the tree of life to every creature on earth. It is the symbol of harmony. But the moment you turn it backwards, not Yud, Kei, Vav, Kei, but Kei, Vav, Kei, Yud, backwards, that means judgment. That means delay. That means that things are not in order. They are backwards, not in order, backwards. Okay, reverse order. Okay, so, and that means, V'nei tzaruf shem chodesh Tamuz, so the permutation of the month of Tammuz, it's totally reversed. Vehu moreh al din, therefore it shows about judgment. U'mitzaruf zeni Hashem nitava din al haman ha'rasha, but Haman, when he said that, he wanted to generate, he was a great sorcerer, a great wizard in the dark arts of wizardry, as Rabbi Isaac Luria is teaching us in his book, The Gate of Free Meditations. However, he wanted to awaken and arouse judgment against Mordechai. Okay? But that basically got back to him, okay, on Haman. And therefore, those days it is to show us that the judgment is on these days. Of course, there's another, he's mentioning another time, another aspect. ואפילו קודם י"ז בתמוז, להיות הימים ימי הילוך המרגלים. אין הימים הללו בהתגברות הרחמים כל כך. We also know from the book of Numbers, פרשת שלח לך, okay, that when we spoke about the traveling of the 12 heads of the tribes in the promised land, and they came back with a terrible message. It's not for us to conquer. It's too hard for us. Okay, that happened. They left to visit the Holy Land, the Promised Land, on the new moon of Tamuz today, and they came 40 days later on the 9th of Av. So most of the traveling was on these days. And our question is, why didn't Moshe Rabbeinu, didn't Moses know that? But again, the stories of the Torah are not here to tell us folklore or legends of the past, okay? They're just to show us that they failed. If the Torah has any interest of telling us the dates, it is to show us that those 40 days from Rosh Chodesh Tamuz till the 9th of Av, these are days of judgment. These are days that the person has to be really careful not to fall, because what happened to those chosen 12? They were supposed to be the most righteous people of the Israelites. They were the heads, the leaders, the presidents of each of the 12 tribes. Okay, and that means they were not political leaders. They were sitting on the board with Moses. You can't be a cheat or a liar or somebody that is corrupted by power next to Moses every day on the board meetings of the nation. Okay, so they were the most in the highest level. However, they fell during these days. It is to tell us, if they fell, each one of us, nobody can say, oh, it will never happen to me. You know, that's this kind of thinking of, don't worry, it's going to be okay. It's not certainty in the good, but this is like basically lack of responsibility. We have to be careful every day because the challenges are there. We can fall every moment. But during these days, we have to be super, super careful. And therefore, we're not supposed to go deliberately, consciously, choosingly into situations in which we know we have already the tendency to fail. So we have to put ourselves some limits about where do we go and how far do we take risks during these months or these 40 days. So we are not supposed to take too many risks. That's what he's saying. Because there's judgment. And you know, if you're a captain of a ship and you go through high seas, you know that you have to be very careful. You cannot sail in the same speed, and you understand what I'm saying. Okay, so therefore there is the control, shlitat adin, the control of judgment during these days. And that's even before the 17th of Tammuz. And we know that the 17th of Tammuz is not a very nice day. The 17th of Tammuz is the day of the golden calf, the sin of the golden calf. So the 17th day of Tammuz is also the beginning of the most dangerous period of the whole year, the cycle of the year, which are called the 3 weeks of judgments, Yemei Bein HaMetzarim. They're starting at the 17th of Tammuz, and they are completed on the 9th, or the fasting day of the 9th of Av. So that we are talking about 21 days, the most negative 21 days of the year. Where can you find them? Most of them, you know, from the 21 days, 9 are in the month of Leo, Av, and the rest 12 are in the month of Tammuz. Almost half of the month is belonging to those days of judgments. Now, if you, so does that mean that we have to go into a hiding when this month is coming in? No. Life is not about not being careful not to make mistakes. If you don't do anything, you don't make mistakes. Remember that. But it is during this time, it's not that it's a bad time, but it's a time, it's a challenging time, and we have to be aware of it. I'll give you an example. Moses is the 17th of Tammuz, is the day that Moses comes down with the 2 tablets. Okay? It was 40 days after he went up to the mount on Shavuot, which is the Mount Sinai revelation. He's coming down with the tablets. What if the nation of Israel did not fall? What if most of the people would not listen to the bad advice and won't support the golden calf, or stop the making of the golden calf? And then Moses is coming 40 days after Mount Sinai revelation, and the whole nation is waiting for him and cheer up for receiving the physical tablets. On that day, that will be the day that the law would be given also for the other 70 nations, and the whole process, what is called the Messianic age, would have started on that day. So if we did not commit the sin of the 17th of Tammuz, of the golden calf, the 17th of Tammuz would have become the most important day in the calendar for all nations of the world, the day that death was basically annulled and the world started really to live. Okay, so, and then we would have the most important holiday on the 17th of Tammuz, in the month of Tammuz, which means Tammuz is not a bad time, it is a challenging one. And if you overcome a big challenge, the result is huge. Okay? By the way, one of the most dominant forces in the modern era for democracy, freedom, and so on, this is the United States of America. Although some people say it is a joke, but without the United States of America, World War I would not be finished the way it was, and the world would not go on a path of freedom for all nations. Same thing in World War II. And the result of the victory, this fight for freedom and democracy of these 2 world wars, thanks to America, the result is the world is much more free for most of us, for most human beings, just because of that. However, if you go more than 200 years ago and you find out that America has been established, the United States of America, on the 4th of July, 1776, the Hebrew date was the 17th of Tammuz. And as we said, the 17th of Tammuz is the message of freedom for all humanity, or the golden calf. So you see how the history of America is fluctuating between the golden calf, materialism, and whatever goes with that, which means let me just do whatever I want to do, and who cares about the rest, and values of freedom and responsibility and so on, that is basically what inspired the founding fathers of the United States of America. So you see the two extremes live in the same place. Okay, so let us continue with the forces that are controlling during this time, as we said. Now, we have another influence, which is the moon. The moon is the ruling planet of the month of Cancer. the month of Tammuz, and it is being ruled by the window. It's called, the Zohar calls it the window of Shin Kuf Vav Tzadik Yutav. These 6 letters, they are the letters, if you know the name of 72 letters, which is known also more as the prayer of Anna Bekoach. This prayer has 7 lines, 6 words in each one, and the initials of the seventh verse are the letters that rule over the moon. Levana, white. That's the name of the moon in Hebrew, the white one. Okay, why? Because white is the color of chesed, of loving kindness, which is the original, as we said, the element of water that rules over the month of Tammuz. So we see from both sides, from the side of the astrological kaleidoscope, that is the structure of the Hebrew calendar, which means the cosmic calendar, and also the moon, we have again the power of whiteness, caring and sharing in a motherly way. The moon is a feminine, and that's why it has a cycle of a feminine, the ups and downs, okay? Like a female that has her own cycle, the ups and downs, and the moon has the same thing. And basically, you have to remember, the Zohar says, why is it that we count the months according to the moon? You know, the Hebrew calendar starts on the new moon, and today it is a new moon because that's the beginning of the month of Tammuz. Always, Hebrew month starts on the new moon. Okay? Why do we count the moons according to the moon? According to the moon, again, the months. We can start like, you know, the Roman calendar, which is basically the calendar of the Western world. It doesn't start on the new moon. It's just nothing happens cosmically on January 1st. Okay, it just somebody decided. Okay, there's no connection to any cosmic events on the 1st of January or February or March or April. But the Hebrew months, basically like most of the calendars in the Far East, are starting at the new moon. Why? Because we are like the moon, says the Zohar. The moon has no light of its own. Humanity has no light of its own. We only have the light we are reflect from the sun. Okay, who is the sun? The sun represents the giving of the Creator, which is ongoing without any change. You know, the sun is shining also at night. Okay, how do you know? You see the moon, and the moon reflects the sunlight, so you know in the space it's not dark, there's sunlight. But we cannot see that light unless somebody reflects that light. The same thing is about the universe. How much light do you have in your life? How much do we reflect? How much of the light you can take and share at the same time? Now, according to the Book of Formation, Sefer Yetzirah, the moon was created by the force behind the Hebrew letter Tav. Now, the Hebrew letter Tav means a mark. So, you know, like in the Roman letters, the last letter is an X, okay, X, but it comes from the ancient Hebrew, which is the same mark. The Hebrew letter Tav symbolizes something higher than that, but it's the same meaning. But what both means the end of the road, from A to Z, okay, from Aleph to Tav. Tav means the end of the road. And therefore, the Zohar says that if somebody knows the wisdom of face reading, and it's not just about looking at the face and the structure, but there's also some symbols that show on people's face, but most people cannot see that. Those symbols will be Hebrew letters on the forehead of people. Again, thank God, most people cannot see that. But some people do see that. The letter Tav appears on the forehead of a person 30 days before its death. Why? It's the end of the road. So the energy of the moon is the energy of uh, limitation. As we said, judgment. It's the end. Look at the moon. What do you see in the moon? You see the dark side and the light side. Okay, it's always the same dark side and light side. From Earth, we see different days of the cycle of the moon. We see sometimes more of the light side, more of the dark side, but the face of the moon is always towards Earth. Now, it is about emotions. When we're talking about the crab going to the right or going to the left, here it is also right and left, black and white. Black and white. Most of people who are Cancerians, they have a very strong sense of justice, very strong, but it is very extreme. For them, it has to be it's either right or wrong, black and white. And we know that this is a very strong aspect of mental imbalance. People cannot understand that life happens in the grays because A, humans are not perfect, including myself, that every person has to tell that to themselves so many times every day, every hour to mention it. We are not perfect. We're not going to be perfect uh, pretty soon. Okay, it's going to take a while. And that means that other people are not perfect. So in the moment I'm expecting other people to be perfect, this is very scary. Why? Because humans do the best is making mistakes. The best thing people do is making mistakes. And the moment you expect people to be perfect, it's like you're putting a trap under their feet because you always wait, you're judging them all the time. How come they're not perfect? And you know, nobody is perfect. And therefore, you cannot, next to somebody who has Cancerian eyes, you will never be okay because sooner or later you're going to betray them because they're going to hate you because how dare you do something imperfect? Nobody is perfect and nobody can be, mistake proof. So this black and white vision, the same way as you look at the moon, there's no grays. It's either white and you have a very sharp line between the white and the black. And the same thing, that's the letter Tav. The letter Tav shows about this exact border between death and life, happiness and misery, and so on. And life, according to what we learn Kabbalistically, is a mixture of right and wrong, holy and unholy. And our job is to sift through life and to make the holy portion in our lives bigger and bigger and bigger. But if you ask yourself all the time, am I holy or not? Of course you're not holy. Why? You're here. You're living in a body. You're not holy. Because the moment, most people, it says, En tzaddik she'aseh tov ba'aretz ve'lo yachta. And there's no righteous man or woman who will be perfect and won't sin. So what makes them righteous? King Solomon answers, Sheva ipol tzaddik v'kam. A righteous person is not somebody who never makes mistakes. A righteous person is a person that makes mistakes, but he has enough trust and enough stamina to say, I made a terrible mistake and I'm going to correct it from now on. And he gets up again and again and again, 7 times, and he was still getting up. That's the difference between a wicked person and a righteous person. A wicked person does not have the stamina, the energy to fight and try to make it better. This is the basic idea of the month of Tamuz. It's about accepting the falls as part of life, yourselves and others, because that's how life looks like. It's made of a lot of imperfections. But as I say, you know, whatever business you do, okay, usually the business people do is doing something that other people do not have. Otherwise, why would they pay you? Okay? And if they don't have it, it's a lack, which means we live out of other people's lack. Okay? Which means it's not bad luck having a lack. Because there's a lack, the Zohar says people need each other and they interact and they learn to share with each other. And as they learn to share with each other, they learn how to build themselves up and to build their lives up. So the fact that something is missing, that's not the problem. The problem is being so negative, it will never work. Okay? That's the biggest enemy. Okay, in our lives. What we have also in this month, we have the letter Chet. The letter Taf, as we said, is for the moon. The letter Chet is the letter for the month of Cancer, for Tamuz. Now, if you look carefully at the letter Chet, the way it's written here, you can see, whoever knows a little bit of Hebrew, it's basically not a regular Chet. This is the way the letter Chet is written in the Torah, according to Rabbi Isaac Luria, which is called the Ktav Ha'ari in the Torah. Okay, if you look carefully, you see we have two letters over here. Vav on the right, Zayin on the left. Vav is the sixth letter in the Hebrew alphabet. Zayin is the seventh letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Okay, and there's a little like triangle. There's a little roof, like a rooftop, that is connecting the two letters. Now you have to understand that these two letters come, and what is the letter of the month of Tammuz? That's the letter Chet, which is Vav is number 6, Zayin is number 7, Chet is number 8. Okay? So the letter Chet is the letter of the month of Tammuz. The letter Vav is the month of Iyar, Taurus. The letter Zayin is the month that created the month of Gemini, Sivan. Okay? Teomim. So what's the connection? If you look at the word Tammuz, the name of the month, the word Tammuz is made of, the word Tammuz, okay, I don't have it. The word Tammuz is made, oh, we have it in the beginning. Okay, if you look the word Tammuz, Tammuz is made of the letters Tam. Tam means completion, comes to completion. Vav Zayin. It's the completion of the Vav Zayin. Now, if you make a little roof that connects the Vav Zayin, we get the Chet. So Tam means completion. And that means that if we did a very good job during Iyar and Sivan, which is most of the counting of the Omer, then we are already trained dealing with the imperfections that will come up to our face and the imbalances that will come up in the month of Tammuz. However, if we are not willing to face that and to fight it and to perfect it, then the letters Tam are changing their places and it becomes Met. Met means death. So that's why we have in the 17th of Tammuz, we have the time the death came back to power because it lost its power on Mount Sinai Revelation. 40 days later, on the 17th of Tammuz, it got its power back. Not in full capacity as it used to be, but it got its power back. 17th of Tammuz is also the day that the walls of Jerusalem were broken and the enemies came through and the disaster of the destruction of the temple started. Well, it culminated by the burning of the temple on the 9th of Av, 3 weeks later. Again, as we said, it's either tam, which means complete. Complete means corrected. Tam, it says about Yaakov Avinu, Jacob the patriarch, he was ish tam, he was complete. Completion means balance. So therefore, we can say something that is very important, the most important thing about the month of Cancer and the people of the month of Cancer. We know that people of the month of Cancer, they are extremely sensitive. Why? Water. You know, you even say when somebody is mentally imbalanced, he's moonsick, correct? In Hebrew, you call it, in English, you call it lunatic. Luna is moon, lunatic. In Hebrew, you call it saharuri. Okay, Sahar is one of the names of the moon. Or Chole Yareach, moonsick. Okay, so the moon is a symbol of mental imbalance. Why? Oversensitivity. Now, and therefore, you could see, and I saw it many times in my life, you meet people who have all the great traits of wisdom, and people from the sign of Cancer are extremely intelligent, okay? Extremely knowledgeable, okay? Very powerful people. However, they have one little thing, oversensitivity, which means they have the tendency, I call it like, when you have the tendency to get hurt too much from everything, you're just having this like post-trauma syndrome that you carry with you because you were hurt by this and you were hurt by that, which means you could be an eternal victim. And when you are this kind of internal victim, it's like somebody gave you a punch in your belly and you have this hole, and through that hole of, you know, holding all of these emotions, all of your good fortune flies out and disappears because you're so busy with being hurt so many times and being victimized so many times, and all the great talent of wisdom, of all kinds of great traits that these people, the month of Cancer, are amazing people, okay? But they oversensitivity, and the thing that they get hurt all the time, they get hurt. It's like this is their biggest idol worshiping. All their good fortune runs out from that kind of big puncture, of this punch in the belly. How do you overcome it? Instead of being, and that's what usually people of the sign of Cancer do, they're always into what do I feel and how do I feel and how does that feel, and they feel and they feel and they feel. The moment you're feeling yourself, which means all your consciousness is self-centered, only about me, myself, and I, this is the worst thing that can happen to a person, any person, no matter what sign they are. Because why? I never met happy, selfish people. What does it mean being, I'm hurt, why am I selfish? Selfishness is our biggest downfall. Why? Because, as we said, this is what is met. Met means death. And as we said, Tamuz has met, letters met in it, and it's finished by the letter Tav, which is the symbol of death, the end of the road. When a person is only busy with his own feelings, he is in the end of the road. And he is right now busy with himself. Whatever happens, it's all about me. While we learn in Kabbalah, we know that all what human being is about, it's about connecting to the endless light of the Creator. And as the Zohar says, when it says that God said, let there be light, and God saw that the light is good. The Zohar is teaching us, therefore we understand that everything that is good whatever good feeling it is or what the good fortune is about, it's coming from that endless light of the Creator. Now, if the light of the Creator is endless, we know from the rule of affinity that similarities attract, which means that if you want to connect to the endless light, you have to vibrate on the same wavelength, which means as long as you're busy with your own pain, you are in a place that is the end of the road, and the light is in the endless. That's the opposite frequency. How can these two frequencies can connect? The only way is to transform that oversensitivity to sense and care for others unconditionally. When a Cancerian or every person like this has the ability to turn the sensitivity into caring for others unconditionally, you could see that those people will be, for instance, Cancer, the sign of Cancer, they can be the best leaders, the best managers, because a good manager is somebody who can feel and sense all his employees, all the people that he's running, okay, and know exactly where they are, and he will, when he sees them starting to fall, he will be there to care for them and put them back on the place, which means that the best commanders, the best managers of projects and factories, organizations, stuff like this, they could be, because they have this magical ability to be there for others, to sense others. And the moment they do that, they connect to immortality, because that's the most satisfying thing in the world, to be there for people and to bring them to function on the best level possible. There's nothing better than that. So that's for in short the basic traits of this month and the people of the sign of Cancer. Thank you so much, and have a great month.